it's about 3 days after the main install and initial test runs, and today I'm just going to be making some further adjustments, some small adjustments, mainly to correct a couple of minor issues. One of the issues is on prolonged left-hand turns, it's starving for fuel, so I believe that that's a float adjustment. I'm going to adjust the throttle kick down lever just to make that a little more responsive. I want to adjust the idle speed screw when it's on choke, so that's this adjustment screwed down in here, which I have to play with. We play with that, and then adjust the idle speed again, because the idle speed's a little high, but what that does is it means that the throttle plates are not fully closed, and when you go to accelerate away from a set of lights, it's got a bit of a dead spot there. So I believe that that's one of the fixes for that. So I'll be pulling the top of the carb off today, making those other adjustments, and I'll get back to you with how we go. So here's the top of the carb coming off with a bit of luck. Got everything disconnected. This here is what we want to adjust the upper level on to give it a bit more rise. Golly, there's a lot of shit in that fuel already. So what's happening is when I go around a prolonged right hand bend, like a roundabout, it appears to be starving for fuel, and after doing some research it looks like it's got a bit of fuel slosh, which means that when I'm turning right, the fuel is all going to one side of the float chamber, centrifugal force, and then forcing the valve shut like so. So I just need to adjust this so that it's got a bit longer travel on the high side, and so on right hand turns that it won't shut the fuel supply off. I'll try it and see how I go. So this is the final setup. I was waiting for this part to arrive for a week or so, just over New Year's. Everything seems to take a little longer. This is actually the Chinese version. This is called a Sherryberg air cleaner and filter. It's exactly the same as the Weber, bolts straight onto the Weber, but it was half the price. And also because it was Christmas holidays, the local supplier of the actual Weber parts weren't open. So since my last video, I've had plenty of opportunity to test and retest and tune and retune things, and I've also adjusted the kick down position on the transmission, which has helped as well. And essentially now that I've got what I think is all the vacuum lines in the right positions, it's driving absolutely beautifully. There's occasionally a little bit of a stumble when the engine's cold, just on initial acceleration, but that goes away very quickly. I am going to take the vehicle to a workshop to get a exhaust gas analyzer or air fuel gas analyzer on it, and just so they can fine tune that. But actually I'm very happy with how it goes. It idles beautifully, it's smooth, it sounds good. Even the manifold vacuum, which manifold vacuum was quite low with the Solex on it. Obviously had a whole ton of vacuum leaks throughout the system there somewhere, but manifold vacuum's gone up now to into the green section on my vacuum gauge. So I don't remember exactly how many what the pressure reading was, but it's good, so I'm happy. The only thing I need to do now is get the PCV set up so that it runs from there to the bottom of this fitting here. There's a 13mm fitting there, which I'll just run a pipe from one to the other, and it's done. So very pleased, and I would recommend this job to anyone who's running a Mercedes with a Solex carburetor. You know, if you've given up hope, then there actually is hope, and hopefully by watching my video, the 4 videos, you will have seen that, you know, it's a job that, you know, if I can do it, I hate to say it, but anybody can do it, and you know, you've seen how I've done it. The things, yes, there are some things I probably would not do quite the same again, but we'll go into some of those. Also got a little bit of information, I've shot a wee bit of video on the Solex carburetor, and so, you know, just to kind of clarify why I've done this job. Also, this air filter here sits a lot lower than what the original air filter would have once with that adapter, but we'll talk about that in a minute. This adapter is one part that I wouldn't order if I was doing the job again. I think this was about $70, and it's designed to fit on top of the new Weber carb, but to fit the old Solex air cleaner. So your factory Mercedes air cleaner just fits straight over the top of this. It's the right size. But the problem is, once you put the adapter plate in, you put a phenolic spacer in there, and then you put in, I put another spacing block adapter plate, and then bolt the Weber on top. It lifts the whole assembly up a little bit too high for the air cleaner to sit there nicely, and the bonnet would be pushing down on the air cleaner, so obviously you don't want that. So you'll see that the fuel pressure regulator here has got the vacuum line connected at the bottom, which then this vacuum line is a T connection there, and it continues on to the retard side of the distributor, and then on the ported side, which is the red vacuum line here, that has also got a T connection there, which drops a line onto the bottom of the fuel regulator valve. So as the vacuum increases, then supposedly it allows more fuel to go through, so that's a great thing to have. So all up, I think the conversion cost me about $2,000, and you'd ask yourself, well, why would I spend that $2,000 on a carburetor upgrade? Well, if your Mercedes has got one of these fitted, then you should seriously consider doing an upgrade. This is, of course, the Solex 4A1 carburetor, which has just come off my car. And I have to say, and it actually turned out, did quite a bit of research and found out that this was the last time Mercedes used a carburetor on a petrol car, was the 4A1, and it was also in the 250. That was the final vehicle to carry a Solex carburetor. So why are these things so maligned? Why are they so bad? Well, I think there's a lot of reasons why, but the ones that I've noticed primarily are the complexity of the carburetor. It is a very intricate piece of machinery with a lot of moving parts. It's got electrical connections for solenoids, it's got water connections for the choke, it's got fuel connections, of course, and then it's got a multitude of vacuum connections, and internal vacuum is required to make the carburetor function properly. So with your throttle diaphragms, even to open the two main barrels requires vacuum. The carburetor themselves are actually built in 3 layers. So you've got the top top of the carburetor here, you've got the main body, and then you've got the base. So normally carburetors would have generally 2 layers, and so that reduces your chances of warping significantly. And I think this one, had vacuum leaks in some of the joints there, so it was sucking in a lot of false air, never running properly, and was a gas guzzling nightmare. Could never get it running right, and then when you did take it to a technician or a mechanic, no one really wanted to work on it because they could never really get them running perfectly. It looked bad for them. So, you know, if you're kind of wondering, do I want to drive a slobby old piece of shit for the rest of my life, or do you want to spend $2,000 and suddenly enjoy driving your car, then I think you just answered that question yourself, haven't you? Of course, I'll be keeping this carburetor and just putting it away in this box, and then one day if I ever decide to sell the car, then it can go with the new owner if they're that concerned about making the car back to its completely original condition. This was one of the manifold gaskets off the old carburetor, and on this side it kind of looks okay, but on this side it kind of shows evidence of there having been a vacuum leak between these two sides at least, and some false air getting in. So this was stuck between the phenolic spacer and the carburetor itself. The other gasket that was below the phenolic spacer and against the manifold had pretty much dissolved. It had silicon put on it, which had reacted with the fuel over time and was a bit of a mess, as you'll see in my first video where I'm cleaning that muck off the intake manifold. When I was going through the old paperwork for the car, I discovered that the carburetor had been overhauled twice, once in 2000 and then again in 2023, which would indicate that actually the car has probably never really performed all that well, and as a consequence it's hardly ever done 2,900 k's a year for the last 46 years. So, you know, I wouldn't want to drive it either, the way it went. Yesterday, after a little bit of fine-tuning and testing, I took the car out, you know, for another drive. I had some chores to do, so went around 2 or 3 places, and I was just sitting back, arm out the window, really enjoying how well my car was going, and pulled into the supermarket, got some ice cream of all things, and then when I came back out, jumped in the car, turned the key, no crank. Luckily, I had roadside assistance, so I was able to get the car home within about an hour and a half, but unfortunately, the ice cream did not survive. So, that is not related in any way, shape or form to the carburetor work that I've been doing, and it's just a very cruel twist to the end of my holiday that after spending days and days working on this car and getting it just running beautifully, then something else breaks, and so really pissed off really to have that happen at the end of my holiday. My intention was, you know, start using this as a bit of a daily driver over the next the next few months, but so that job is a solenoid, I believe, on the starter motor. It's another weak point that these things can play up after 45, 46 years apparently, or earlier. So that's going to be a bit of a job. It's quite a tricky thing to get the starter motor out. The solenoids aren't particularly expensive. I think New Zealand dollars around $130 or something like that. So the car's off the road, unfortunately, until I get that done. After spending all that time and money getting the carburetor done, but at least I know that when that key turns and that engine starts, it's going to run like, it's going to purr like a kitten and drink like a fish. Actually, the fuel economy is a lot better than what it was, to be fair. Hey, thanks for watching my videos. Hope it's been useful to you, and click like and subscribe, and you'll get notified of any more Mercedes videos that I put out, particularly the starter motor repair. Thanks.